how much of this has the bony fingers of the Kremlin in the middle of it? You know, how many of these accounts on Telegram? We know, I mean, last night there was yet another munitions factory, a business who sell products that dual-use products, and there's the sort of, you know, the allegations they're sending weapons to Israel. It's bunkum, it's nonsense. Arson attack against that. Police were attacked with hammers last night. And we know from other incidents that some of these people have been Russian agents in the past. We also know, when you look around the modus operandi of, say, the Wagner mercenaries in Africa, they've got a pretty good playbook when it comes to overthrowing governments, destroying regimes, adding to coups and so on and so forth, creating instability. You know, they've been testing this out in countries across Africa for a long time. How much are they potentially doing that here? Let's start off with the second point first, about the potential foreign involvement in what's happened.
So, we've only got 3 hours to talk about this.
Right, yeah, only got 3 hours.
It's very easy to put the foreign involvement label on there, and lots of people are doing it without actually really understanding the detail and everything else. The complexity of what's going on and the complexity of the information operation that is being played is beyond these so-called far-right groups and everything else. There has to be something behind it. So I'll leave that bit there. If we take it to an extreme level, the Russians have got the 72nd Special Service Centre, which is also known as GRU Unit 54777. Now, GRU is the Russian First Directorate, the military intelligence. They're the organisation that sent individuals into Salisbury to try and poison Sergei Skripal with Novichok. Now, this is a different department. It's one of the older departments of the Russian intelligence machinery. In 2019, it celebrated its 100th anniversary. They have been integrated into everything that the Soviets did and the Russians have done internally, but more interestingly, externally, ever since the Soviet Union was first born. And therefore, the use of propaganda, the use of disinformation to try and further the Soviet message, to try and destabilise, to try and create cracks in where they see as threat societies. And they see British society as a threatening society. They see the West as a threatening society. It is their job to try and find ways of creating discourse in society to do that.
What sort of things might they have been doing? And it's very difficult, of course, until we've had a sort of deeper look into the lot of this. And it's not necessarily our job to do it, but I think we should at least make this known publicly, that sometimes what you see has various origins, including origins of states who frankly want to see us at civil war. What sort of things might they be doing?
Well, the thing that started all of this was the rumour going round that the perpetrator of the horrific attacks on those 3 children who lost their lives and the others who were severely injured was someone who'd come across in the boats.
Right.
And there was speculation about the individual's name. And it came out in a Telegram post that said he should have been on an MI6 watch list. Now, I was reading through that, and the English was clunky, and then as soon as you get onto MI6 watch list, MI6 don't do watch lists when it comes to terror and people coming in. That's MI5 that run the watch list. This had come from somewhere probably outside the UK.
Right, and then
that started it.
Yeah, we know that there was that Twitter account, Channel 3, I think it called itself. At one point, it sort of aped the moniker of Fox News, which started off as some sort of accounts with an IP address in Pakistan, registered to 2 individuals in, I think, Lithuania, which used to put, like, Russian drag racing up there, and now all of a sudden sort of pretends it is a proper news channel with branding and so on and so forth. It clearly is not. That is one element that we can see, and that we know that this is more than likely something emanating probably from Russia. And
what they don't do is they're not going in and directing everything. You know, they don't have a team that's sitting there saying, right, we're going to create a riot here and we're going to do this there and that's going to... What they're sitting there doing is they'll throw... You've got a still pond, they'll throw a pebble in the pond and watch the ripples. And then when they see the ripples coming in, they'll go, that ripple has caused some anxiety there, and therefore they'll take a snippet of the what's in there and they'll amplify that, and this is where the bot farms come in.
Right.
And then people start to believe that, so they'll take, you know, a clip of someone with a national characteristic with a potential weapon in their hand and put a commentary underneath it to say this is an individual who's going out to kill people from XYZ background, and then they'll amplify that, and that will stir feelings up amongst those that are being groomed, because those that go out in the streets are groomed by the people that are controlling this information operation that's going on behind
Might
it.
they even go as far as having assets at work penetrating some of these organisations? We know that they have done this in times past with environmental groups, for example, to try and change the narrative into the sort of things, you know, all of a sudden nuclear is bad and Greenpeace wants to ban nuclear, when that would have been a brilliant solution. And look at the mess we're in now as a result. Could it be that there are actual individuals who are befriending, mixing, mingling with some of the people who are part of these protests?
Oh, there will be, and that it doesn't happen in every case. And those assets aren't going to be, you know, Valeri from the Russian embassy that comes in and starting to talk to people. It will be agents that they've recruited. It'll be people that are part of those groupings, that are from the same backgrounds of the people that are in there, that are being influenced. We've seen that in the pro-Palestinian marches. You know, the Iranian Revolutionary Guard Corps, the Quds Force, have been influencing what's going on in there. The Russians have been influencing a number of other things. There's definite influence into the Just Stop Oil campaign. We've seen influence into animal rights. There's definitely been foreign influence into other terrorist activities that have gone on in parts of the UK. You know, influence into the IRA, influence into the UVF and other terror groups that are out there.
So we know that there is. We know this happens. Now, the other element of all of this, the bit that I was talking about first, is the fact that you need, for this stuff to really take off and work, you need fertile ground.
Yes.
You need a significant amount of ordinary people who are frankly cheesed off.
Yes.
And this is a huge problem in society today. That is clearly something that we need to talk about. And like I said, we've had moments of reflection after everybody else's protests. These have been the most horrific I have ever seen. And so we absolutely do need that conversation. My concern, of course, is that Sir Keir Starmer is going to turn around and say, look, everyone there's going, shout it loud, shout it clear, refugees are welcome here, woo, 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 woo. Forgetting the fact that actually, you know, we've got a CPS Twitter account now naming and shaming all those people involved with criminal damage and attacking police officers and all the rest of it. Great, let's name and shame them. But we're all going to be looking at that list to make sure that that isn't a partisan list as well. Oh,
very much so. And this is where, you know, it's very difficult indeed. And you know, from a society perspective, we need to get back to basics. We need to get back to basic values in the society that we live in, and get away from all of these different woke organisations being allowed to go out and do what they want. That's not undermining, that's not denying free speech. But what it is doing, I think we need to look at where you go beyond free speech and you are on the edge of inciting you know, it's hatred between different groups.
Right. Can we just all go home and have a blimmin' cup of tea? We don't need to use the streets of the United Kingdom as a tawdry theatre, whatever your concern is. I'm not saying people shouldn't protest, but quite frankly, walking around with a Palestine march is not going to change the death count in Gaza at all. Quite frankly, gluing yourself to something or chucking orange rubbish on Stonehenge is not going to remove one single atom of CO2 from the atmosphere. So we just need to get back to getting on with our lives. And it would help if we went into the offices and went to the pub and mingled and spoke with people like other human beings and knocked on our neighbours' doors and knew their names and actually forged a real sense of community rather than allow ourselves to be siloed and get obsessed with social media. It's ridiculous. It's dehumanising. This is what happens when you break down a society into basically vehicles for Silicon Valley. Let's have a listen to Nigel Farage, a good old buddy of mine, of course, speaking this morning to TalkTV, and his concern that despite the conflagration we've seen on the streets of the United Kingdom, sadly, nothing might actually change.